Welcome to All Gems, No Crumbs, where the vibes are high and the tips hit every time. I'm your host, Ikenisha J, entrepreneur, millennial mama, wife, and your go-to for real talk on building your brand, protecting your peace, and living your softest life yet. Each week, I'm dropping gems to help you level up in business, mindset, self-care, and everything in between without the fluff, pressure, or burnout. No crumbs, just gems. Let's get into it. Hey jewelers, it's me, Ikenisha. Welcome back to All Gems, No Crumbs. And today we are going to be diving into something super personal again, but it's not going to be as deep and serious as shadow work. It is serious, but it's not going to be as, on that level, the way shadow work is. So I want to talk about something that fuels every single thing that I do. And it's something that I've always done and I didn't know it was a thing. And it's called intrinsic motivation. And it's like that fire in you that doesn't really need a gold star or a pat on the back to keep burning. You just do it. So this episode isn't going to be that long again, because again, this is just something I wanted to bring to the forefront because of a few things that we'll chat about. So let's get into it. So like for me, this wasn't some trendy self topic. It is something that is woven into the very fabric of who I am. And honestly, it comes a lot down to like my fierce, stubborn love for the freedom of choice. Excuse me, had to clear my throat. And I touched on this, the trauma that I went through in my shadow work episode, so I won't go into that. One of the reasons why I'm so into, being stubborn in certain things, because like when you experience that type of violation that I experience and having certain choices ripped away from you, it changes your whole perspective on life, and it makes you realize that holding onto your power and making your own decisions, that's not a luxury, it's essential. And so you can't try to make me do something like that. That's a thing for me. Like, I don't try to tell me what to do. It's a control thing, and I'm working on it. Pray for me. But if you try to make me do something, bless your heart, it ain't happening. So no matter who you are, what your title is in my life, it's my life. I do it my way, and that's on period. And I have cut people off before, people that I'm close to, because of certain things that they have done and certain boundaries they have, crossed, and I cut them off. And I remember this one time, um, my husband had said to me, before, like, do you talk that way? Like when me and him argued, he'd be like, do you talk that way to your boss? Yes. Not like, okay, not like in, how I want to say this. Okay, so I'm not disrespectful unless you disrespect me. And again, I do not care who you are. So an example, when I was an assistant manager at Victoria's Secret before I got promoted to a store manager, there was this issue that I had with my car, and I was actually chosen by my district manager to go help out another store with a few things. So I had gone for, I think it's about a month, and my car had like a serious issue where I would turn it off, like if I got gas or something, and then it randomly would just not start. And so that was an issue that I had on the way to work. I had to get gas. Turned it off, obviously. Tried to turn it back on, and nothing. And then something happened again where I was like on the side of a really busy interstate or whatever. I can't remember all of it now. This was years ago. But the point is, I couldn't get to work that day. And so she calls my store to talk to me in private. So my store manager at that time, she put me in her office so I could have a chit chat. And so my DM, that's district manager, she came at me sideways. And so what did I do? I came at her even more sideways. And she raised her voice and I raised mine. And I let her know, like, you're not going to talk to me that way. And regardless of what you think, I was not slacking or anything like that. I did what I was supposed to do. But at the same time, I could not call at one point because I think my phone was dead. Something happened. And I couldn't call until later. But I did call to let them know what was going on. And I had to it was a whole ordeal. It was a horrible day. So when I was done with the phone call, like, I think I had her respect after that because she even came to my wedding. But my store manager and one of the supervisors, they both were like, "Oh my God, we can't believe you talked to Becky like that." Yes, her name was Becky. We can't believe you talked to her like that. Can't believe you were raising your voice to her, blah blah. And I was like, "Okay, and who is she?" Like, I do not care. Again, if you're going to disrespect me, I'm going to disrespect you. And again, I know that's not how life is supposed to be, but that's just how it is. I can't let people walk over me. I can't let people cross boundaries that I have set. I cannot let people try to tell me what to do when I know it is incorrect or when I don't need to be told what to do. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's just a thing. So, again, pray for me. And honestly, too, because this is something that happened like several times. Like, if something is starting to feel like a soul crushing chore and overwhelming, or just like I'm being made to do it, or if it's stressing me out, or just giving me like negative vibes, then I'm out. Like, when I was younger, I would quit a job, no, like, just quit. No notice, no nothing. And life is too short to be shackled to things that drain your spirit. And so that was how I was. It's like, if it was a job I wasn't feeling, I would just leave. And then, it changed a little bit once I had kids because I had more responsibility. But that's one reason why I got off Instagram social media. If you don't know, back in 2023, I want to say, the entire year and a little bit of 2022 and the beginning part of 2024, I was not on social media, like, business wise. It was just, I was tired of it. I was tired of the way it was making me feel. I was just not feeling it. It was starting to feel like an obligation, a chore. It felt like I was being made to do it. And being that I was my own boss, I was like, I don't want to do it. And so I'm not going to do it. And so I didn't do it. And so I wasn't going to do it. I was taking a break for like a month or so. And then that month turned into 2, and 2 turned into 4, and 4 turned into 8. And I just didn't get back on. And I enjoyed not feeling, envious of certain things. I enjoyed not feeling the anxiety from, posting and hoping that the post would do right, algorithms changing and all that stuff. So I really enjoyed being off social media for a year and some change. So back to the whole thing of intrinsic motivation. So, like, don't get me wrong though, like, at work, when those accolades and that recognition rolls in, it feels really good. Because, like, I've said this before, I'm a person that is usually at the top. So any job, whatever, I'm normally getting that, external nod. But I learned early on that sometimes that isn't enough to keep the engine roaring. And that's what intrinsic motivation is. So, like, thinking about my boutique, that was pure, unadulterated intrinsic motivation. Like, I loved every single aspect of it from the very beginning of the journey to the very end. I love styling my models because I called them my little Barbies, and I would dress them up and take pictures of them. So that's what I called them. They were my Barbies. And I love capturing their beauty through my lens. Well, it was on my phone. If you all know, I did my photography from my phone. And honestly, like, sharing my journey on YouTube, I love that as well. Like, the ups and the downs of me coming on camera looking a mess sometimes, so y'all would know, like, this is how it really is. Like, I loved it all. And looking back, I think I've said this before, it felt divinely guided because everything about that journey was easy. Like, God just put things in front of me. He opened doors and they just kept opening, and things just flowed so easily, even without, like, a whole bunch of likes and shares and sometimes sales. But for the most part, everything was great. And the sheer joy of creating and connecting with that vision is what kept me going. And for me, staying in that zone, keeping that internal fire lit is a cocktail of things. Like, I would do daily affirmations that remind me of my strength, a healthy prayer life, of course, that centers me, and then my gratitude journaling that really helps me. Like, gratitude practice is a game changer, and it keeps me grounded and it keeps me optimistic. And people, granted, I've always been one of those people who, well, how do you say this? Like, you know how people describe other people as like half full, half empty, those type people with the glass half full type thing. I always said I was realistically optimistic because, like, if you ask me if the glass is half full or half empty, I'm not someone who's going to answer right away. I got to ask you questions because to me, there's a difference. If you were pouring the water in, then the glass is half full. If you were pouring the water out or drinking it, then it's half empty. That's how I look at it. So I'm, an analytical person by nature and a naturally curious or naturally inquisitive person by nature. So I'm not one of those type of people that you can just say half full, half empty. That's not me. But I am optimistic, and that not only, comes from just naturally, but the gratitude journaling. Like, my mom had me doing that at an early age. I stopped for a while and I went back, and I stopped for a while and went back, and now it's just something that I do all the time. Or if I'm not journaling about it, I will think of something in my mind to turn something around. So, like, for example, at my the school where I tutor at part time, they were giving out bonuses. Well, not the school, it was the county. And so I did not get mine, even though I was told I was supposed to, because I had gotten one previously in November. So just a few weeks ago, I did not get mine. And normally when we would get bonuses, they would come separately from a check. So you would get your check, and then you would get a separate bonus check. And my bonus checks were like, the taxes were like, they would take out maybe $80 out of my bonus check, which was pretty good. So, when I was like asking around, other people if they got theirs, and one of my close coworkers, she was telling me that yes, she got it, but instead of them sending it separately, they combined it with the regular check, which made your regular check bigger, which means, of course, more taxes came out of it. And I was like, oh my God. So, dang. But then when I thought about it, I called the central office, and they did get me my check the next day. And they said, they didn't know, where the oversight happened, but they sent it to me. So anywho, I looked at it as that was a blessing because I got mine separately, which means I only got about $80 taken out of my check for taxes. Whereas everyone else had like huge amounts. And so that was great. So again, you gotta find the silver lining in things, find the blessing. And like, for me, like, the gratitude sort of thing, it's like my personal reset button. Like, when I hit a rut or I face an obstacle, because of course they pop up a lot, I can usually rally myself back. I don't need anyone else. And the only thing I do is focus on what I do and what I do have and what I have overcome. And I'm able to bounce back. And something that I've noticed where I might be a little different than most people. Well, I am different in a lot of ways, but when it comes to this particular journey, I've noticed that I'm different in the fact that I'm my own hero. I'm my own biggest motivator. Like, people, like, when I was really into Instagram and really, I had a big community of people will always talk about needing to listen to others, listen to gurus, or get inspired by other people's journeys and being motivated by other people's journeys and stuff. And honestly, that's just not how I'm wired. Like, I can respect other people's paths, but I don't get motivated by it. My fuel, like, I don't get gassed up, from that. Mine comes from within myself. Because I've been through some things, obviously, especially during, that whole marriage roller coaster thing from 2019 to 2022. And that was when, I expressed before where I barely recognized the woman that was staring back at me in the mirror. And I made a promise to myself then to never again let someone else's opinion of me dim my own light or drag me back to that dark place. That's just not going to happen anymore. I will walk away. But in my business life, thankfully, I hadn't faced too many insurmountable obstacles, except for those bouts of feeling down and envious. But even then, that internal knowing and that deep conviction of what my boutique meant to me kept me going. And knowing my daughter at that time was my biggest fan, y'all. Like, y'all don't understand. If I had like t-shirts made, so when I did like vendor events, I would have, t-shirts on. Sometimes I would wear t-shirts. And of course she wanted one and she would wear it all the time. She would tell people, this is my mama's business. Like having your little girl do that, that gave me an even more sense of purpose in it and a nudge to keep going and to, do it all. And of course, even to share my knowledge, because knowing that I had other people rooting for me on YouTube and needing my knowledge and expertise, that was fuel for me again. So I wasn't motivated by anyone else. I was motivated by myself. And ironically, having to step back from the constant pressure of social media, which started to feel like, again, a chore, actually helped me recenter and reconnect with that initial internal drive that I had, allowing me to rebrand and refocus. And that brings me back to what grinds my gears in the entrepreneur space is when I hear people constantly saying, I need to get motivated to do this. I need to get some motivation. And I'm here to tell you, like, if you got to be motivated or made to do something in your business, that's a huge red flag, sis. Like, it likely means it's not something you're truly passionate about. And you're probably headed for burnout, because I've been there. Or you'll eventually just quit. And you shouldn't need a cheerleader squad to get excited about something that you genuinely love. If you genuinely love it, you don't need the motivation to do it. You just do it. Like, I never had to psych myself up to work on my boutique. The desire was just always there. I just always wanted to do it. And that's the same way now. Like, I've closed my boutique and now I'm focused on what God told me to focus on, which is teaching others and having an impact in my hometown, having an impact offline. And I cannot wait to do this stuff. Like, every day I'm thinking of something new to do. And it's just that burning desire for me. I'm just, regardless of me getting recognition in my hometown now that I'm getting and receiving and opportunities that are coming, is great. But I just really want to do it because I want to do it. And this is also like a big reason why I have stepped away from doing a lot of one-on-one sessions. So I used to do them a lot because people always wanted my time, but they were starting to feel like they were draining my energy and forcing me to go into topics that I wasn't really wanting to talk about, or things that weren't really aligned with my current focus. And I didn't like, if you were someone who had a one-on-one session with me, please do not take this the wrong way, but I also just did not like giving away my time in a way that didn't always feel reciprocal. And my energy is a gem, and I'm learning and have learned to protect it fiercely. And I just did not like where it just felt like someone was telling me what to do. It felt like someone was taking away my attention at a time when I did not want to, even though I knew it was an appointment coming up. But when I would see, the time coming down to, oh, it's time for so-and-so's, it wasn't about the person. It was just the fact that majority of the time I did not feel like doing it at that time. Now, once I got on the one-on-one session, it was always great. But I stopped doing them because it just really felt like someone else was telling me what to do. And I just didn't like it. There's this quote that I have memorized and I love it, and it perfectly encapsulates this whole idea of intrinsic drive and excellence. And it's actually from Aristotle, but Rick Ridsby, there's this there's this speech that I listened to on YouTube. Now, I know I said I don't need motivating or whatever, but I do love listening to this one particular speech on YouTube. And it is who is it? His name is Rick Ridsby, and he's giving this graduation speech. And I mean, it was an incredible speech, and I think it's called "I Went from a third grade dropout to ultra successful, something like that. But it's about being, no, he was a third grade dropout. Sorry, his something I can't remember something, but he was a third grade dropout. It was his dad, but I can't remember the title of it, but it's really good. But look up Rick Rigsby on YouTube, or I may link it in the show notes or something, because I'm telling y'all, it's an amazing speech. But anywho, he said, Aristotle says, "You are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence should be a habit, not an act." And that quote right there constantly reminds me that striving for excellence, not perfectionism, because y'all know I am a perfectionist, but I should be striving for excellence, genuine excellence in my work and in my life. And it should be ingrained in my daily habits, driven by that internal desire to be my best self. You know what I'm saying? And so I have that quote written on like my little dry erase board. I have it in one of my little planners and journals. Like it's in a lot of places. And I implore you to find some affirmations that work for you, some quotes that work for you, because I know some people, you still do need that little nudge. You do need those little things to get you going. So I understand that. And that brings me to this vision that I have of my, quote, future Ikenisha. And I always think about her, and she's not about chasing some arbitrary definition of perfection, which I'm working on. She embodies excellence in her own unique way. She is successful by my definition, not by anybody else's. And that's the lens through which I navigate my decisions now. So like when I'm faced with a choice, I will subconsciously ask myself, would future Ikenisha do this? And if my gut says no, if it doesn't align with the values and the path of that future excellent version of myself, then I don't do it. And I have learned to trust my instincts, that inner compass, and knowing that, like I'm on the right path, and seeing myself reaching my own goals and that internal validation, like for me, that's the ultimate fuel. And that's the power of intrinsic motivation. And so it's a gem we all have within us, and it's waiting for you to ignite it. And as you reflect on on our conversation today, I want you to really dig deep and ask yourself, what truly lights your fire from within? What are those activities? What are those aspects of your business life that you would pursue with passion and dedication, even if no one was watching or giving you rewards or anything of that nature? You know what I mean? Like that, my friends, is the magic of intrinsic motivation. So I'm gonna give you a clear definition. So if you're someone you haven't really thought about intrinsic motivation, or you don't really know exactly what it means, I'm gonna tell you. So intrinsic motivation is the inherent drive to engage in an activity because you find it interesting, or you find it enjoyable, or just meaningful. And it comes from an internal desire to learn, explore, create, or achieve a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. And unlike extrinsic motivation, which relies on external rewards or pressures like money and praise or fear of punishment, intrinsic motivation is fueled by your own internal values and passions. You get what I'm saying? So it's about doing something that feels good, right, and aligned with who you are and what you care about. That's intrinsic motivation. So tapping into that intrinsic wellspring is where true sustainable momentum comes from. It's what keeps you going when the going gets tough, when the likes don't roll in, or when the external validation is scarce. It's about the joy of the journey. And that's where I was with my boutique. Like, I just enjoyed the journey and I loved it. So this week, your gem from me to unwrap is to identify those intrinsic motivators in your own life and business. I want you to nurture them, prioritize them, let that internal fire guide your path. Because when you're driven from within, the possibilities are limitless, and the journey itself becomes the ultimate reward, not the external reward itself. So that is my gem for today, and that is my conversation for today. And if this episode sparked something within you, please be sure to follow. Please be sure to share. Please be sure to subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. All of the things, okay? And share it with someone who you think might be relying too heavily on external validation. Let's help them find their own inner fire too, okay? All right, so catch me next week for even more gems. And you already know I'm not going to leave no crumbs.